Hey everybody, I'm back for part 2 of my book review. And since school is out for 2 weeks, I'm sitting on the floor, just still connecting. Not with my inner child, but just with my inner adult teenager. Yeah, adult teenager that wants to, rebel. So, y'all, this incense is love, because everything I'm saying, y'all, is in love. It is in love. It's in love, and I've gotten just so many just beautiful downloads, and I know this is part 2 of the book review, and I'm going to get into that. But I'm going to take my time with this. It was something that I was led to go back to Memphis, to Overton Park today. I didn't know what Spirit was up to, but I knew I had to go back. So being back in the woods where my activation and my ascension started was just full circle. And what God gave me, Spirit gave me, was that it is time to share all of the downloads that I've gotten over the past 3 years. And y'all, I know a lot of stuff, and I don't even know how I know it. But Spirit gave me, don't even worry about that. I've been gifted for a long time. Since I was a little girl, I just knew stuff. And I would get accused a lot of times of being a liar or telling stories or not telling the truth. When Spirit let me know, I was always telling the truth. It was never about details. It was the energy behind what was going on is what I knew. I always knew the energy behind what was being said. And most people, got a vibe on the logical side of the brain, the details of things, when I've always been more on the fluid side of the brain with what does this feel like? I've always known a person's intentions. Like, safe to say, I've always been able to, to read people. I've always been able to read energy and been very accurate. So that's a natural gift. And then, also being a skilled clinician. So, yeah. But, y'all, the book review, it was so powerful. And a few things, I've just listened back to the video that I did put up. I remember during a break, after I had we did the reading and got ready to do some of the drama, some of that work, I went over to Dr. Davenport and I was like, man, this feels like some Cosby Show shit, like Cosby Show for real. You know how with Cliff and Claire, would be philosophical, and I feel like I'm in one of those discussions. And so Dr. Davenport said, you see the Cosby Show picture over there, don't you? It's like, nigga, no. So y'all, I'm gonna post that video. The Cosby Show picture was, was over there. And then another thing energetically or on a metaphysical level that happened, Dr. Davenport was saying how much I reminded him of his uncle, I guess with my with my sass, my one-liners, my wit, my gift. And he said, there's a picture of him, I think it was a self-portrait. So that picture was also hanging up as I was facilitating the work, cooking per se. But yeah, y'all, it was something how those black men were just able to be safe and drop down into their emotions and pull from things they probably talked about but could not access, emotionally. And I know the reason why is because, there was safety in the room. And I am a safe person. It takes a lot for me to feel safe in my body. A lot of meditation, a lot of prayer, a lot to feel safe in my body. So the safer I feel in my body, the more connected I am to the divine. And so whatever the guidance tells me to do in session, in group, I'm going to do it. So, during the book review, and I'll say again, the white shirt gentleman who wanted to work on being pressurized by his well-meaning father, because the BlackWell Theory, you never go against a person's parent, ever. You don't ever go against a person's parent. I don't care what they say about them. You don't do that. So, but the white shirt person, didn't want to do that piece of work. So when I invited him to help the blue shirt gentleman, I knew he was going to say yes. I knew he was going to say yes. And he stood in that role perfectly. And what I had him do, there was a step ladder in there, because when I'm in the middle of working, everything becomes a part of the work. And I had the white shirt gentleman to stand up on the step ladder and talk to the blue shirt gentleman. Basically, blue shirt gentleman's father is talking to him basically from heaven, allowing him, if you want to say, that closure, and all of us being a witness to it, and just holding that sacred space. Like, he really did do 20 years worth of work in probably 2 hours. That's how powerful that circle was. And so, y'all, in the first part one of the review, I was talking about Dr. Gina, and how intimidated I was by her. But by the time we got done, she's like, I want to do a circle at my house. So I'm like, yeah, because we do need those safe circles. And y'all, my book, it's, I was talking to another counselor in training today. So she said, so is your book written for clinicians, or is it written for, lay people? I said, well, it's written to everybody. I do think clinicians, would benefit from it. But it's written to, it's written for lay people. Anybody will be able to pick the book up and glean from it. But these safe circles, I'm honored to be able to do them with people who have PhDs. The hardest thing about working in Memphis was working with students, staff, church members who wanted so badly to get well. But the leaders, y'all, were tore up from the floor up. It's just like working with, a child. Like teachers, you do all that work with a child, but then the child got to go back home to the parent that's unhealthy. So that was the only thing about Memphis. The leaders very well could have taken advantage of somebody like me, and it would have been taken advantage of. With the leaders, my thing was, I want to teach you everything that I know, so that your members and your staff, your students, can look to you, for this wellness. But they slept on it. And so wounded people do mishandle people, and cause other wounds. So the Memphis will always be just a special place for me. I made my place in Memphis, and I talk about in the book. The reason I did do so well in Memphis is because of Henning, because of Lauderdale County. Coming from a place that we just didn't get to throw people away in the country. You didn't get to throw people away. I don't care what they did, what they said, if they did something and went to jail and came back, like, we probably gonna wash their ass, but you don't get to throw them away. They can still, catch a ride up the road, and, they can still get a plate if they're hungry. Just something about that country vibe. And so I took that same thing to Memphis, because people look like, act like, smell like, move like me. So, but being able to now take this work to researchers and allowing them to benefit from it personally is just a beautiful thing. So yeah, that's, part 2 of my book review. Now, here's the other thing, y'all, that I wanted to name too. As one of the brothers was doing the personal work, because even though his original action work was being, grieving his father, and also being angry with his father for not showing up the way he wanted his father, to show up for him. And I always believe we may think, our point of distress is outside of us, but it really is always us. A lot of times we'll say things to ourselves like, how could this person do this to me? How could they do this to me? That's not the real question. The real question is, how is it that I still love them, considering what they did to me? That's always the real question. It's not them. Is why is it that I still want this person? Why is it that I still long for this person, considering, how they treated me? So, and so we you just had to be there. But as we got ready to close the work, I wanted the gentleman to go back to working on, the inner child part of him that still longed for his father. Because, that there's nothing wrong with that. But also letting him know, because this blue shirt was a proud father, served in our armed forces, loved his wife, black man, y'all, that needs to be in research that we need to talk about, his story, proud father. And so what Spirit gave me to give him was, you get to finish your father's story. And I got that from my good friend, Derek Tennille. Shout out to Derek for offering me that I get to finish my mother's story, my grandmother's story. Like those that are gone on, y'all, their stories are not complete. Their genes still live in us. So offering that to Blue Shirt, that you get to finish your father's, story. So it's okay that the little boy in you still longs for that. But y'all, I didn't have a little boy. So I had my girl here. And so I'm still here in Spirit to say, okay, do the inner child work, give him the little girl. But I'm like, it's a girl. And what if he got a sister that used to kick his ass or something, then the work tore up or whatever. So, I'm still, Spirit said, do the work. So I'm bringing him back to his younger self, pretty much, to say, it's okay that you still long for your father. And so they were like, you need a little boy. And I was like, I know, I'm going to order one. So I come back and tell my sweetheart brother, Dre, that I said, Dre, I wish I had a little boy because the men really needed the support. And so Dre said, oh, well, we'll just get Miguel. And I said, I'll order him. And Dre said, no, I already have him. Y'all, look at this little boy. Look at this little black boy, Joy. Oh my God. And again, another way, y'all, just to let me know that I'm in, alignment. And, so I texted, Dr. Davenport, and was like, I want to come back and just have a little inner child, black boy, black girl, after every safe circle that we, create. Because this is what it goes back to, black boy joy. So, and so speaking of inner child work, let me tell y'all my view. Your inner child don't want to hear shit about your trauma. God knows it don't. Your inner child does not want to hear anything about your trauma. The only thing you need from your inner child is spontaneity and play. Your inner child wants you back, spontaneity and play. Not the trauma. Your inner child don't want to hear about daddy being gone and all of that. Your inner child has already survived it. And I love Viola Davis's book. Oh my God, y'all! You should. Her book should be a part of the Black Bible, and then my book next to hers, for real. And how she talks about the wounded inner child passed the baton to you. So my wounded inner child passed the baton to me. So I got to go ahead and finish her race. Not keep going back to the trauma shit. She'd already survived it. So, and I would tell women a lot of times, your inner child went through all of that and is looking at you like, this still how you acted. You still going through, after all that I went through, you still letting people use you. You still let people abuse you. So, a part of my safe circle work is bringing your 2025-year-old self back to maybe your 8-year-old self and saying, I'm going to let you rest. I got it from here. I ain't mad at you for still wanting your mama. I ain't mad at you for still, loving your father. It was the power, young man, that you fell in love with. Your father's power caused you to feel weak. Something in you hungered for that power. I ain't mad at that, because you need power in a world like this. But you need help managing your power. Your power is evidenced by how much joy you have. Look at this baby, y'all. So, yeah, that's just some of the stuff, that's coming up for me. But your inner child, just spontaneity and play. You don't need to talk about the wounds and all that kind of stuff. And Your inner child needs to stay back in 1982, when I was 7 years old, 1982, because the 7-year-old doesn't have the intellect to know how to deal with 2025. And so when you're wounded and you don't have the intellect or the literacy, the words, that's when you spazzing out and crashing out. And, as my granddad would say, face long as a tennis shoe, weeping and crying, because, you're overly emotional, but you don't have the intellect to know how to deal with that. And that's where storm comes in, baby. I'm going to teach you how to deal with that. So, yeah. That I think that feels like a good place, for the full review. Feels like a good place. And the other thing that the Spirit gave me today too, y'all, is to post these videos on YouTube and don't look back. So I'm gonna post them. I'm gonna go to the other media feeds and say, hey, they on there, and don't look back, because I don't want this feeling like work and oh my God, what they thinking of me. Hell no, I'm trying to outgrow that wound. Shit. And go down here and play with these children. I have an interesting theory about these post-COVID babies, because a lot of the work that I'm doing, the BlackWell Theory, is not really for those of you that are listening to me. It is for those babies that are coming, y'all. That's what this theory is for. It's teaching them how to self-govern and not need a system, because those post-COVID kids ain't going to be no system that can hold them, y'all. It ain't. There's not going to be a system that can hold them. And here's my theory, especially if you're still listening to now. Here is my theory. Those babies that were conceived during COVID, y'all, they were conceived in love. Bitch, ain't nobody finna lay up with nobody during COVID. Your ass might die. So if you laying up making babies, bitch, it was love right there. Those children were conceived in love. A lot of them, love, because you don't know if you're going to live or not. So however you got them, there's a lot of love when you conceive those kids. A lot of them got main character syndrome. Now life has started happening, and that attention and that nurture and nourishment has been withdrawn and being replaced by this busyness. Ain't no system can hold them, y'all. You're going to have to nourish and nurture those post-COVID babies. To me, born between 2020 and probably, now, 25. Because all the kids born, I believe, 25 forward, look at the climate. We got the stress response again. Kids coming in, they have nervous systems and, all of that. So we got to nurture and nourish these post-COVID babies and their mamas. Because they're the ones that's going to reset society for black folks. For real. Now, that's my theory. And I know that's what the BlackWell Theory, is for. But we can't nourish their little hearts and minds if we are emotionally dysregulated. So that's a lot of the reason for my work. So I'm going to wind down and put these little guys to bed. Thank y'all so much for following me. And please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I got a story about that from a post-COVID baby. But like and subscribe and share. And y'all leave me some comments. Engage with me just to let me know that you get where I'm coming from. I appreciate y'all. Be well.